So I started realizing game का इंडिया में कोई पैसा नहीं देगा. No one is making any money making games in India. And I also started waking up to the idea that, oh shit, I need a job one day. God, this sucks. Technology. Just so you know, the average person, you guys are all going to write code. And this is something you will get used to over time, right? The average person does not like you. Because in a way, in their head, you are replacing their jobs. ये सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर है, ये ऐप बना देगा और मुझे काम से निकाल देगा.
I'll let Varun introduce himself because he does that for a living. So, and he'll do it way better than I will do.
So, firstly, I'll tell you how I know Mukul, right? So, how many of you know Mukul runs a company called Classplus also? You all know this. Okay, everyone knows this. So, funny thing, in a past life, I used to run a company, and Classplus was actually one of the first companies. We were actually selling the company, right? We had run it for a few years. We were looking for an acquirer. Classplus was actually one of the first potential acquirers we were speaking to. And so that's how I got to know Mukul. We got to know each other over like a 6-8 month period. He came to Bangalore several times. I went to Delhi several times.
We dated.
We dated for a short
long distance.
Long distance with once in 6 months physical visit. So that's how I know him. Sorry, Mukul. So offline visit. So it didn't happen though. Unfortunately, sometimes
so
dating never leads.
Lesson number 1, long distance dating does not work.
It does not work, right? But if we were in the same city, maybe, I don't know. But after that, after I sold that company, I decided to be a content creator. But I said I'm going to do it differently. I think when people create tech content, they say anything that comes to their head. I said we will run some experiments. We will make the process of making content a little bit easier, simpler, right? And one of the insights I had, which I think was right in the long-term horizon, was that I was pretty sure AI really disrupts content first. It allows you to write scripts better. It allows you to make images easier. It allows you to make videos easier. So we said, let's cover all the coolest things that happen here, and ek acha kaam karenge. We'll take some of the outputs of those AI models, and we will integrate it into our workflow. I mean, if I can use AI to make a thumbnail and save some money, why not, right? So we started doing a lot of that. Today we run a company that does that both for ourselves as well as B2B. So we do it for some businesses. And yeah, we're a content creator. We're actually the largest, and this is probably something none of you know, but in the last 6 months, the short form content that I've created, I have not been on camera. Neither the video or the audio, and maybe we can play 1 or 2 of these videos if we have, somebody doing it. But yeah, I haven't shot a video in the last 6 months. I haven't been on screen. This is something that's not really a secret. Like sometimes I tell the world, but people don't pay that much attention. So I'll give you an example, right? If you go to my YouTube, actually Instagram is much larger. You can just search for Instagram Varun Maya. Thank you. I forgot. So if you look at this and you click on the reels, if you look at this video, for example, not this one, close this one, this one. So this video has close to, how many views does it have? Can somebody check? What? कल ही देखा था. कितने व्यूज है इसमें? It has, okay, 12 million views. So this video is, this video is created with AI. So I'm not in the video. The voice is not mine. It's been trained on, about 2-3 years of my audio that, I've created on YouTube. This video has 12 million views. This month we did over 45 million views on Instagram and YouTube. Making us the largest AI avatar in the world, which I think now people have realized. So there's now an American creator who's covering it, saying that the video will come out next week, saying that, look, this is the largest AI creator in the world and it's from India. So something for us to be proud of, I think. This is what I do in a nutshell. It's very weird. It's very strange. I have this technology doing my job in a way. And yeah, that's what I do. Mukul, I hope that was a good intro. The comments don't support this video? No. The comments don't support the topic. That is normal. That you put out anything, people will be like, oh, this sucks. Technology. Just so you know, the average person, you guys are all going to write code. And this is something you will get used to over time, right? The average person does not like you. Because in a way, in their head, you are replacing their jobs. ये सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर है, ये ऐप बना देगा और मुझे काम से निकाल देगा. So what I have learned, which is the sad part about not just India but across the world, I thought this was an India only problem, right? But across the world, people do not like new technology. I mean, I'm sure one thing that binds all of you is you are very excited when new technology comes out, no? Right? Meta Ray-Ban glasses came out. I was very excited. I was like, shit, now we can take a video of a space without, by just telling it. I can ask it a question, what's the temperature today? And it can answer me like straight from there, right? I don't need to open my phone anymore. When I carried it on the street and I bought it in New York, people were looking at me and acting like, ye kya hai? This is going to take away jobs or whatever, right? Like there's a natural fear of new technology, which I think in this room, what makes you unique, and that's why the friends that you will make in this cohort for the next few years are so important. These are the only people that will relate to you. Be like, hum software build kar rahe hain, we're making the world better. But that's not how the world will see it. The world will see it as you're replacing my job. So you'll get used to it. That's why these comments are normal.
Tell you a little more about Varun. Varun is extremely modest and humble, so he'll not tell you all the amazing things that he does. I'll tell you, he's also one of the nicest entrepreneurs I've met in life. I think in candid terms, we can now tell it. Generally, when founders try to sell the company, they tend to optimize one thing, which is their personal wealth, right? Because if I'm selling a company, I should get the most money, right? Varun is probably the only entrepreneur I have met in life who, when we are discussing that entire deal, he said ki I need zero money out of this. Whatever money we make, can we please give it to our team, even if it means that I will not take even $1 out of it. And in my 9 years of entrepreneurship career, I would have probably evaluated more than 100 companies for M&As and partnerships, but I've never seen a founder like that. And that is one of the first reasons. And the reason I'm telling you this is, you might do great with code in life, you might do great with views, you might do great with money. But I think the character you will build is probably going to outlive and outlast all of those achievements. And that is something that we can't teach you, right? That is something that only you can choose to learn, either from yourself or by seeing somebody, or basically your conscience, right? But I think when you grow up in life and when we talk about, when people talk about you behind your back, they will never be talking about that how many views you got, how much money have you made, what is your company's valuation, how tall you are, probably how good looking you are, but that's that, not always, right? But they will always talk about how great and humble and a sweet character you are. So my point is that this will never be a part of the curriculum over these 4 years. But I think if you really want to make it big in life, build this. And see, today also, when I have to say the first sentence about Varun, this is what came to my mind. Nothing else, right? Despite he is being, he's done so much, right? But I'll tell you one more thing which differentiates Varun from probably most of the creators that I've met in the country. He's a techie by heart, right? And he did not speak a lot about it, but his real interest lies in, as he mentioned, like new age tech, building products, virality, distribution-led growth, tinkering around solutions, finding productivity hacks, and stuff like that. And I think when I first, I think that's the only time I've visited you at house. Like he was essentially showing me a very small snippet of tool, something around WhatsApp automation that had just gone live and viral in Brazil, right? And I asked him that why are you doing this? Because it's not making you money. Like it's essentially costing you money. And he said that this is what I love doing, right? So he's probably the most techie creator and entrepreneur that I have known in my short career. And Varun, that is something I want you to speak about. Like, how did you fall in love with this? What are the different cool stuff that you have done in life? And not just cool, whether it is cool, whether it's large, whether it's impactful. Like every sort of innovation falls into a certain category, and you can't compare good or bad, right? They are nice in their own terms. But how has your entire journey as I won't call you a techie, but let's say tech enthusiast, how has that journey over the last 10, 15 years evolved? How have you evolved? Why do you still like doing it? But just a core philosophy, and then what are the right choices you have taken in life, whether in college, whether post that, whether during your entrepreneurial spirit. Like, what are the choices you have taken, and what are the sacrifices you have made, and what are the good decisions that you have taken in life in this entire not career, in your life as a tech enthusiast?
Is it better if I show and tell? Can I just show you? Okay, some of this is old, but let me just show you either way. I'm going to reach out to this computer here. So 13 years old. Actually, when I was about 7, my parents gave me a computer and then said, Varun, you figure this out. And they both went to work. So my mom was a banker. My father was just an upcoming doctor. So they left me with a computer at home. That time it was a Pentium 2. So it was a nice computer. I said, let's figure out what to do with this. Then finally I got dial-up internet. Has any of you ever seen dial-up internet? Dial-up internet. Mukul has seen dial-up internet. It's not a dongle. Okay, let me show you. That's why I said now we're going to do show and tell. Do you have a mic I can wear? So while you get that set up, let me just show you what a dial-up internet is like. So we're going back in history, okay? This is a dial-up internet modem. So it makes a sound, and every person who has ever had a dial-up internet has heard this sound. It's a very irritating kika, whatever sound. And you log in like this. So we used to log into the internet, just so you know. We used to log into the internet. Okay? So I had dial-up internet, and I didn't know what.
By the way, this could be Windows 95 or 98.
It's probably 98, yeah.
In this room are born after 95.
Yeah, so sorry, predates you. Right? Huh? So yeah, so I started with this, and guess what? I started using the computer to play games. I got Dave. Has anyone heard of Dave, the game? Let me show you. Okay. I see some hands going up, but let me show you anyway, okay? This is Dave. Most people have forgotten Dave. It is called Dangerous Dave. Yes, it was this. I used to play this game. So I got very fascinated with playing games. And I started playing a lot of fighting games. So one very famous fighting game at that time, which is still existing now, is called Mortal Kombat. You heard of Mortal Kombat? Let me show you the original Mortal Kombat. It is called Mortal Kombat 4, I think. This is the one I used to play when I was young. This is Mortal Kombat 4. Very, very old game. So I got obsessed with fighting games. So then I said, as any techie will eventually say after playing something or using an app or something, मुझे भी बनाना है. I want to make game. So I started looking for game engines. I'll show you my exact search. My exact search was game maker download. 1999 or 2000. I searched for game maker download, and a lot of different options are there. And I found one called Mugen. Okay? Mugen in Japanese means infinite. So this is a game engine called Mugen Game Engine. Let me show you. Game. 2D game engine. It's called Mugen. Okay, where you could play any character against any character. So this here is Goku versus Ronald McDonald, right? So I started playing this. So you can download any character. So I downloaded all sorts of characters. I would show my friends. And then one day I decided I'm going to make my brother. And I'll tell you the process of making a character in this game. First, you take pictures of somebody you want, maybe your brother or whatever. Make him do the different poses like punching, jumping, kicking, whatever. And then you make them into sprites. A sprite basically means you basically take every frame, you make them as separate frames and you put them together. I said, this is this animation, this is this animation, this is this animation. And then you actually write code. This is my first experience with code. कि यार जब X button press करते हो, make sure that the character plays this animation. Either एक hitbox डालो, and if an enemy is in this area, if there's an enemy in this area, deal some damage to the enemy. It's the first time I ever wrote code. And I didn't know I was coding, just so you know. I didn't know this was called code. I thought this was giving instructions to the computer. So I don't know anything about code. Eventually I got pretty good at this because you're trying to perfect. I didn't care about coding. I didn't care about a job. I didn't care about ki, kuch seekhna hai. I was just like, I want to make my brother almost perfectly in the game. Okay? And so this is what we did. And slowly I would add more features. Slowly I would be like, I want to add I want to give my brother a finisher. Have you guys played WWE? WWE, everyone has a finisher, right? Like a finishing move. So I want to give my brother a finisher. We did all of that. So that's where I started. Then I moved to, I made a few more games. I made a 3D game. Simple stuff, never really put it out, had 0 users. I was the only player. Then I think sometime around the age of 17 or 18, I realized I started becoming smarter. So I realized socially smart, right? So I started realizing game ka India mein koi paisa nahi dega. No one is making any money making games in India. And I also started waking up to the idea that, oh shit, I need a job one day. And if I keep making these stupid games, no one's going to give me a job. So I said, okay, if all these things are to be taken into account, I think now I need to make apps. And people keep thinking that game design and apps are two different things. We have this thing on the internet, ki blockchain is separate, game development is separate, apps are separate, OS is separate, they're all software. So I found it very easy to move to apps. Okay, and one of the first frameworks that I figured out when I was 18 or 19, when I just got into college and I was getting bored of college, I went to Manipal, is I learned this framework called Ruby on Rails. Has anyone heard of Ruby on Rails? So let me show you Ruby on Rails, okay? This is something that you may learn during your this thing because it's still pretty relevant, okay? And I'll tell you why I chose Ruby on Rails. So Ruby on Rails was different from every other framework out there at that time because Ruby on Rails made things simple. It said, listen, your job is not to sit and write code, you're not a monkey. Your job is to solve problems. Okay, so if your job is to solve problems, then use this framework, it makes everything simple. You want authentication, you want a login system, we've automatically done it for you. So you can call it with few lines of code. So you can save time, only do the things that are valuable, only do the things that are important. So I said, fine, I'll use this framework. So we started making apps on this framework, web apps on this framework. One of the first apps I made was something called Polled, which is to poll, right? So in college, I thought everyone would want to poll, they would want to ask each other questions, and they want answers, and based on those answers, they'll make decisions. That's when I first realized something about humans. I'd made the app, people started using it in my college to poll whatever, to put out a question and then say, what are the answers like? But nobody took the poll seriously. There'll be one class monitor who will see that the poll says, don't do this, and still he will do it. That's when I realized technology is useful, but technology cannot dictate what people do in the real world. People in the real world are still, they still run via ego and groupism and, it is very, I thought technology should be able to influence the real world. It never did that. It was quite the opposite. The real world was influencing technology. They're like, no, something's wrong with the poll. You're putting one extra option, wo nikal. The option that I don't like, you remove. The class monitor told me, right? So stuff like this I started learning. Then, in the second year of college, I said, apps and all are good, but I didn't know how to sell the apps. I didn't know how to get users on the apps. Everything I built only had 5-10 people. So I said, screw this, I'll make t-shirts. Any confused college kid, right? I started making t-shirts. So I started a company, but I said, we'll do it with a twist. Everything I've ever done in my life, I've done with a twist. So I said, we'll do t-shirts, but here, people can have their name on the back. Today, it's very easy for you to get a personalized t-shirt. You can go to Printo and you can say, this is what I want, this is the design, this is the name on the back. That time it was hard because you had to do a minimum order quantity. You needed to print at least 300, 400. So what we did is we decided to go and get t-shirts printed. We said, I went to my class and I said, I'll get all your names in the back. And we actually made money out of that. So, people paid us money. We made some 18,000 rupees or something in profit, and I was very, very happy. But then when the t-shirts came, all the print in the back of the t-shirts was leaking. T-shirts are printed, so they started leaking. So then I realized, oh, people can scam you. So then I had to go to Tirupur one day before we had an engineering drawing exam. Before the engineering, I was studying computer science in college. So before the EG exam, I remember going to Tirupur to go meet the printer and tell him, you scam me, please give me a refund or give me this thing. He just threw us out. So I had to take the profit that we made and reprint t-shirts. Right? That's also when I realized the importance of margin. Some of you, because you're young on the internet, you say, well, if something costs 5 rupees to make, why is somebody charging 10 rupees for it? Itna profit bana raha hai. But sometimes you realize that the profit, it's not really on unit economics, right? Sometimes you make mistakes and you need the profit to kind of solve those mistakes for the client. If we didn't have that profit, we wouldn't be able to pay back. We wouldn't be able to print a new set of shirts with a different provider. So I came to the conclusion once again that I should just do software only, because there's so much janjat in doing physical t-shirts is that software is good. So the third year I started freelancing. Okay, and I went to this website called Upwork. Back then it was called Odesk. Have you heard of Upwork? So Upwork is where if you don't have distribution, if you don't have clients, and if you have skills, and I knew Ruby on Rails, you can go here and you can say, this is my profile, this is my hourly rate, please come work with me. Please, hire me. And I remember the first client I ever got was a Malaysian eye clinic. They wanted a website, and I said, fine, I'll make website. I know how to make website. I mean, I didn't know fully, but I was like, I'll figure it out. So he gave me the project. He said, ek hafta mein ho jayega. And then I learned one more very important thing about human beings, which is, he said, ek hafta mein ho jayega. Then he changed the entire website after 1 week. He's like, no, my design sucks. Let's do it again. So 3 months it took for me to finish the project. He kept saying, one last feature, ek aur ye button change karo. And he was so confused that I was like, wait, half the changes are because you are confused. Right? So I started learning that people don't know what they want. And half of what my time would have been saved if I had given this guy certainty and said, no, you do it like this. Or if we had done better planning. Where in the first week, if we had said, if we freeze on these features, then only then I will build it. But I didn't know all of this. I was Ullu, I was idiot. Right? And I thought ki if I know technology, people will pay me money, but it is a little more complicated. Of this, then I started moving to more, building software for slightly larger companies, because the larger companies know a little better of what they want. So I worked with several companies on Upwork itself. By the end of the 4th year of college, I was making about $150 an hour, which is roughly about 10,000 rupees an hour, which to me at that time was a big amount of money. And for most of you guys as well, it would be a big amount of money, right? So I was very excited. And then I made all the classic mistakes that a lot of people on YouTube make today when they suddenly start making a lot of money. They'll start going to hotels, they start traveling, they'll be like, main 30 lakh banaya saal mein. That kind of, this thing they started putting up. And even I was like that. I went to a hotel. Then I realized very quickly that if you make 10,000, and I used to always do this thing, okay, where I'm like, per hour I'm making 10,000 rupees. Today I went to a 5-star hotel. It cost me 5,000 rupees. I paid for my entire day here with 1 hour of my time. I started getting into that mindset, right? In hindsight, probably not the best mindset, but I was young, I was enjoying it, it was good. I got bored of it. And it's something that will happen to all of you, right? Like once you get your first job that pays you a lot of money, let's say you graduate from here and you start making 20 lakhs an annum, 30 lakhs an annum, whatever the number is. You will then get into this mindset where, oh, I'm making 30 lakhs an annum, now I have to do this till I die. That's kind of boring, right? So at that point, you'd be like, okay, now I want to, do something more. I want to do something interesting. So I got in this mindset that I want to do a startup. And I'll tell you, in 2014, running a startup or starting a startup was not as cool as it is today. Today, it seems cool. That was before the era of Silicon Valley, the movie, and, Tu Beer Hai and all that. That time, it was not cool to run a startup. So I said, I was stupid. So I said, Zomato was showing pictures of restaurants. That time, that's what Zomato was doing. They were not delivering food home, by the way. That's happened recently. But I said, I want to make a startup where you can see inside companies. You can get jobs. Naukri was doing it the old way. I said, we'll do it the new way. So we started a company called JobSpire. We built our own app. We said, why do build apps for other people? We'll build it ourselves. And then we spent 1 year with basically no users. But in the second year, we started getting users. As I started calling people, I started writing less code. I started picking up the phone more. And we started getting users. And then finally, we, at that time, became one of the youngest entrepreneurs in India to have raised some money. We raised 1.7 crores. This is when I was 20 years old. So very, very long time ago. At that time, no investor would touch a 20-year-old with money. Today, every 20-year-old seems to be raising, a few $1 million and making me feel bad. But that time, it was nearly impossible, right? There was no trust for youngsters in India. We didn't really see India as like a tech nation. I mean, we saw it as the nation that could build an Infosys or a Wipro, but we never saw it as this thing that could build product companies, right? Now, I ran that company for 2 years. We sold it in early 2017. It wasn't like the best exit in the world, but I learned a lot, and I got to work. The company that bought us was a New York company, so I got to work with them for a while. I learned a little bit about corporate culture and all that. Got bored of it in 6 months, and I started a company called Avalon. I left and I started a company called Avalon. Now, Avalon's done 1,000 things in its lifetime, right? Because Avalon is a 7-year-old company, and to be very honest, Avalon was me growing up, right? And when you're growing up, you try a lot of things, right? You're like, is this what I really want to do? Is this what I really want to do? So Avalon's done everything. Avalon has started with a services agency where we wrote code for business across the world. Then we said we'll build our own products. So we built a bunch of products. Almost all our products failed. Then finally one product started working called Scenes, right? Where we built a community app during the pandemic where people could, talk to each other and all that. While that worked and we got a lot of users, I learned one new lesson here, which is when you get a lot of users, okay, and you can't monetize them in India, you will die. Because it's actually pretty expensive to maintain an app, especially when you have live streaming and people talking to each other. If you build a Discord, and we built kind of a Discord, right? If you build a Discord, it's very expensive to run unless you can find a way to make money out of it. And while we got a lot of users, all of you have seen the Social Network movie, right? Like where Mark Zuckerberg got a lot of users. In India, if you get a lot of users, you can't sustain on VC funding. Because you need to make money at some point, right? Unless you're very, very well connected and you know everybody and somebody's constantly funding you or you have very rich parents. So we had to pivot. We had to become a B2B company. We had to offer Discord as a service to businesses. That's what we did then for the next 2 years. We made some money. We did somewhat. Then after 2 years, I decided to sell the company again. And that's when, my relationship with Mukul started. And then, we ultimately ended up selling it. And then I started, doing content. I realized that, and that's probably my most important realization, right? That if you're selling software in India, it's better to use the software and sell a service, right? This is my learning. Even if you're building the software, you build it, keep it internally, right? What Infosys has done, you can complain about it as much as you want, but actually that's a model that works. And that's actually why the globe comes to India, right? India to US products, people keep giving 2-3 examples. They keep saying Zoho. Zoho has been around for a long time, but most of their operations happen outside of India. So it's actually very rare to do an India to US software company, and it's something I learned the hard way. But if you do a service and then you use software behind it, it's probably easier. So today I run a company called Leos, and we use AI to make the process of content cheaper, easier. And last month, we don't just have one channel, we have about 8 channels. We did about 150 million views in English. There's a lot of technology that goes on behind the scenes. Even the videos that we shoot, we have these giant LED screens that we shoot them on. I think, Mukul, you've seen it, right? The giant LED screens. So we said we'll do media, but we'll do it in a way where we use technology. We don't shy away because of the background that I've had. And anything new that comes out in content and technology, I try to adopt. The goal is one day we hopefully are able to build a company like Disney. And Disney does a lot of technology. Disney has something called Imagineering, where they have these Wall-E style robots running around. So we want to do some of that. We want to get a little bit into robotics, a little bit into producing our own tools. So we built a lot of tools recently. So some of the tools that EOS has built, let me just show you, right? We built this thing called Alpha CTR. Let me show you. We built this tool called Alpha CTR where you can now automatically generate your own thumbnails. We have a fine-tuned model here based on stable diffusion. You can make your own thumbnails very quickly for YouTube. So a lot of my thumbnails are made using AI. Actually, almost all my long-form thumbnails are made using AI. So stuff like that. We're just getting better at content over time.
Varun, can we see one example of how you use Alpha CTR?
So problem is you have to pay to use Alpha CTR, and I don't currently have an account, but I'll show you a thumbnail that I made with AI, right? click-through rate. So it's called click-through rate. So on YouTube, when somebody clicks a thumbnail, the CTR is the number of impressions the thumbnail got and the ratio of that to the number of people that actually clicked. The number of people who saw it, the number of people who clicked, there's a ratio. That's called the click-through rate. Right? So let me show you. So we look here, this thumbnail. I never shot this. I wasn't in this image. This is actually a flux LoRa of me. You'll probably learn what that is over the years. Where I'm in this. I never shot this. This is not me. I wasn't in this image. So all of this is done with AI. And earlier we had a thumbnail designer. We still have a thumbnail designer, but the thumbnail designer now creates a lot more using technology. Yes. And you can do it with Alpha CTR right now. It's $6 a month. Huh? So this has been created with AI. So Alpha CTR is slightly old. Now the technology is improved to the point where you can make a custom model of yourself. Back then, we were using a fine-tuned model for thumbnails, which was good for thumbnails. This is good at This is good at regenerating your face, right? So you guys should definitely check out Flux LoRa's. It's not very hard to do. You can learn it in maybe a couple of days. It'll also take you along a path of just getting good at ML, right? So it will sort of introduce you to what training is like, what fine-tuning is like. See, training full models requires a lot of compute. You need a lot of money. But fine-tuning models are pretty easy and it's a good start. So yeah, it's what we do. And it's not just for this channel. For almost all our channels, we use AI to generate the thumbnails. Because the idea is always, like I mentioned before, right? You need to make as much profit as possible because if you don't make profit, it doesn't work. So if I don't have a thumbnail designer and I'm able to use AI to make the thumbnails, then I'm saving a certain amount of money, right? A thumbnail designer is probably like 4-5 lakhs an annum. You've saved that money with technology. This costs nothing, right? If I'm automating myself and there's an avatar of me in the video and I don't have to be there, it's saving my time. If I have now 10 presenters across 10 channels, it's saving all their time, right? So it's built on that thesis and even things like scripting and all. Today what I do is I wake up in the morning, I send a voice note to AI and I'm like, write a script for me. And I give it 3 insights, right? And you learn a lot of things. Like when you're training your own voice model, one thing we learned is you need coverage of all the common words. Like there's a word which I didn't put in the training data called devotee. And I was doing some video on some temple called devotees where they're using the Oculus to kind of, pray to God, right? And I was like, I haven't said the word devotee. So what we did was we went to ChatGPT and we said, please give me the top X number of words used in the English language commonly. And it gave me this thing and I read out that with my voice. And then we used that data to fine tune the model. So now, unless it's some edge case word, I've covered most of the words because ChatGPT has told me what all words to read out. Right? So all this, nobody will tell you because nobody in the world has figured out, but we have because for us, it actually saves us time and money, right? The stakes are high. So we learned all this doing it, I guess, over time. And today, my only goal is to keep reducing the cost of producing content to the point where one day it becomes very, very cheap. And then we are paid for pure insight. You're paid for pure distribution, right? How many followers you have, you're paid for that because companies come to you. Like today, Intel advertises with us, Qualcomm advertises with us, Nvidia advertises with us, Google advertises with us. So it is valuable to the companies. It's not my face that's valuable, it's the distribution that we have that's valuable, right? Across the channels. So we work with the companies to make that happen. And yeah, as long as I can keep reducing the costs, then we make more money. Right? That's the thesis here. Yes. So Alpha CTR you can see on the website itself. So I'll show you some thumbnails made with Alpha CTR. So let me show you some made with Alpha CTR. Like this one's made with Alpha CTR. This thumbnail here. This was before the Flux LoRa's. This one was made with Alpha CTR. You can see wherever the face structure is a little weird, that was made with Alpha CTR. Wherever the face structure is nearly perfect, that was made with Flux. Because the thing about the Flux models is they maintain the face structure much better. Right? So as you can see, this one was made with another model. This was made with something called mid-journey swap. So you can see it's not really great. Right? You can see that it doesn't really look like me. So we started using Flux LoRa's very recently. And as you can see, it's already starting to look better. Yeah.
Varun, I have a question. So technology over the last 10 years has been the preferred career for most people who walk down there, right? Uh, so 10 years back when I graduated out of college, becoming a techie or a software engineer was considered to be the dream profession or the ideal job for everybody. 2-3 years later, between 2015 to 16, started seeing that people got bored out of jobs and they said that we can do more by being, let's say, a tech freelancer, because we can probably sit in India and start doing some gig work across Europe or US and make same thing, a more hourly revenue per. We are ready to sacrifice our predictability because we can like generate a large amount of cash. So tech freelancer became a very popular choice of career between 2015 to 18, right? Then came an altogether different phase around 2020 when COVID came and there was essentially a lot of funding out there in the market, and everybody said that screw techie, screw tech in freelancer. Now I want to become a tech entrepreneur because that is suddenly the new cool and the new sexy, right? And over the last 2 years, the emerging profession, or let's say the career choice that I'm seeing, is that people say, "Yaar, no more a techie, no more a tech influencer, no more a tech entrepreneur. Now I want to be a tech creator because that is the coolest profession that comes with the most amount of swag, right? Swag and swank both." Now you've essentially gone through all these phases yourself. You've taken all these roles at different points in your life. My question is mostly about the last part, which is the current wave. Because in this room also there would be some people who would say कि यार tech creator बनेंगे, because unfortunately people as a tech creator come on YouTube and say that they make more money in a month than idle people would even make in a year, right? Without taking names. So what are the wrong reasons for what are the reasons for which somebody should not become a tech creator? Like there could be good reasons of why somebody wants to be a tech creator, but then there are some fallacy reasons which people only come to realize when they are a creator. So what are the wrong reasons for someone to become a tech creator? And that helps in deciding people so that they know that why do they want to become a creator. And if the reason is one of the reasons that you are telling, then they should not become that.
So I'll step into some philosophy here, right? There's a very interesting philosopher called René Girard. Very interesting to learn his thoughts. Okay, I'll just tell you very quickly his thoughts. René Girard believes none of your desires are your own. Nothing you ever want except food, sex, shelter, the very basics are your own. Even your need for authenticity is not your own. So you want that fancy Lamborghini, it's not because you want the Lamborghini. You've seen some rap video where somebody has a Lamborghini, or somebody else on Instagram has put one picture of a Lamborghini. You want it because of that. You don't really want it. Okay, and if society was such that everybody else wanted a feather or a tulip, you would also want the tulip. Right? It's weird. So Girard says all desires are mimics of each other because we have mirror neurons in our brain, and we look at somebody and say like, "Mujhe wo chahiye, wo item chahiye." Because why? Because Rahul has that item and Rahul's a friend. Okay, and the closer you are to somebody else, like what shoes are you wearing? What shoes are you wearing? Which brand? Huh? Okay, so if you're sitting next to him and he's wearing like a very expensive shoe, then you'll feel angry. But if somebody far away on TV, if someone's wearing like an expensive shoe, you don't care so much. Why? Because your distance to him is lower. So Girard says that the closer you are to somebody, the more jealous and irritated you get if they do well. And you think that you desire the objects that they have, but it's not really that you desire the objects. You want to be like that person. You can see this with kids, right? They copy the walking style of superstars. They copy smoking by looking at the superstars on screen doing the same thing, right? Rajnikant is very famous for this, where he throw chewing gum in a certain way and people start copying that. People want to be like that person and they copy the object thinking they really want the object. So Girard says this, right? And Girard also says that the more this increases, the more that everybody wants something, the same thing, right? The more it creates jealousy, because obviously not everyone can have the same thing. The more it creates jealousy, the more that some people do better, some people do worse, and it increases bitterness in society, right? So what happens when some people are bitter, when they don't get the job that other people have, the cool job? They start feeling angry. They start leaving bad comments. And then he said in the past, like 200,000 or whatever, 2,000, 3,000 years in the past, it also led to violence. No war has ever been fought because of a scarce resource. Wars have always been fought where a king said, why does that guy have the resource? He's not worried about the object. He's like, why does that guy want the object? I want to beat that guy because he wants the same object as me. Right? So these wars were fought. Eventually it became a war, the desire for objects. So society came up with a very clever strategy for this. The strategy is called a scapegoat. Okay, society realized when there is tension like this where everybody wants something, you take one guy or one girl who really wants the same thing and you sacrifice them. It's going to sound really weird, right? You make one scapegoat so that everyone in society realizes, don't go after this object. You have to show one person ka downfall story. And you've seen this in every industry, right? With crypto, we saw this with SBF. Just find one bakra. Obviously, he needs to make some mistake or he needs to get caught in the wrong area, but you show him, you show his downfall. So everybody else stops going after that same object. And you can do this in every industry, even in content. Now, people are calling Mr. Beast a fraud. It's all over YouTube. To be very honest, do we know anything? We were not there. But the number of people, and I saw one guy calling Mr. Beast a fraud, and in the ending, he's like, Mr. Beast was interviewing me, or someone from his team was interviewing me, and then they made a video on my idea. So you guys as the audience, give me $2 million, I'll also make videos. And he started a GoFundMe. So they're calling him a fraud and then they're doing fraud, right? So the minute somebody gets too big, you find one scapegoat, ideally the biggest, make him fall so that nobody else desires the same thing. Society finds a way to kill desires like that. Okay, this is Gerard's idea, not my idea. So in every field, even in tech entrepreneurship, in edtech, for example, this has happened. Any field, you can find this happen. Who is the person in edtech that was scapegoated? Right? It doesn't matter. Any industry, you can find one person who society kills, and then the entire ecosystem, VC stop funding, everything stops. Okay? So in every industry, this happens. In content in India, it's not happened yet. And it will happen a year, 2 years from now. Someone will get scapegoated. And then everyone will be like, nah, if I become a content creator, people make videos about me and call me a fraud. It's going to happen in every industry. Okay? So that's why these industries last 3-4 years, everyone gets jealous and everyone says, I want to go do this thing. And then the 4th year, one guy gets cancelled and everyone's like, no, wo industry nahi jana hai. Start happening now with software, right? Like, look at people dancing on the grave of software. Oh, Infosys is not hiring this year. Wipro is not hiring this year. This is whatever. But if you're a good software engineer, you know how to do your job, you know how to build interesting products, you will have a job. Still a very in-demand role, and it's a global role. Right? So, you learn these things over time, and Mukul, to answer your question, I think every wave comes till everyone desires it, and by the time someone's on YouTube saying, I made 30 lakhs an annum, 40 lakhs an annum, they're already the exception. Because for every person you see on YouTube that has 75,000 views a video, there are 500,000 people who are trying every day who are getting 1 view a video. And it's not consistent. Like I did a bunch of deals where these two, for example, the views aren't great. But if you scroll down a little bit, you can see here the views are great, right? This week. So it's a very unpredictable, very unstable career. It is not something I'd wish on anybody. And if you take the average software engineer, average content creator is making zero. They're making zero because they're trying, they're putting out videos and getting nothing out of it. But the average software engineer is doing okay. It's doing well. So your choice of whether you want a safe career or a risky career, it's up to you. The riskier you go, the more likely you make zero. So the question for you is, are you okay with making zero? If you are okay with making zero for a long time, that's what Mukul was saying, right? I'm okay with making zero. Like me personally, I'm okay. I was okay with making zero for many years. Because I was like, one day something will work, no? My assumption was if you do 50 things and you do it with all your heart, one of those things should work. And it's worked out for me, right? At least in the last 1.5 years. So that's the thing. I don't think there are any cool jobs. I think ek banda karega, then 50 people look at him and say, I want to do that. Then one scapegoat is dropped and then the next job becomes popular. I think the secret is to get in early, anywhere.
That's... by the virtue of being a little old, I'm telling you that is one of the most insightful things that you'll hear this month at least, if not in your lifetime. Guys, we'll take a couple of questions. And we'll take a couple of questions. Who wants to ask something?
I don't know if more coder solves the problem. I think there is the myth of the super genius. I mean, it's not a myth. I think it's real, right? Like one guy who writes a paper, who writes a second paper, third paper, he'll do like 50 papers in his life, right? So you need more people given the freedom to go try crazy stuff. And we do have some researchers in India. For some reason, there's brain drain. They go outside of India because they get paid better. So, and why wouldn't you, right? Like if you're really smart at what you do and you want to pursue academics and you know it's going to pay you nothing in India, why don't you go abroad and try? You'll get treated better, you'll get labs, you'll get opportunities. So it's not, that's the decision making. So once we have enough labs in India, and I think you have to privatize it. Like what you guys are doing here at Polaris is good because eventually you'll have a lab and you'll be like, we've privatized it. If you're a smart researcher, you come here. And you, by the virtue of sitting next to that smart researcher, you get to commercialize some of their products. So I think it's just, give it another 10 years, India will have some of this. Like there was a time where all the smart people in India left. That's no longer happening. And my personal opinion, I've said this publicly as well, I get attacked for it. I don't think America has the supremacy it once had. Like culturally, America, in my opinion, is on decline. Okay, because there's a lot of violence, bloodshed, everything there is about race now. It's not great, right? And I know a lot of smart people who 5 years ago would have said, I'll go abroad. Today they're saying, I'll try a crack in India. And there is money in India now. One thing I have learned in the last 12 months, there is money in India. If you're good at what you do and you're unique, and ideally if you can get global distribution, even better. About 30% of our distribution is global. So that was very valuable for us.
Just for fun, what countries globally contribute to majority of that 30%?
So it's mostly US, Canada, and then, European countries. So it's mostly US, like about 11% is US out of the 30. I mean, about 1/3 of the 30%.
One thing is most of them, like all of them are actually first world developed countries.
Yeah, first world developed countries.
And Western.
Yeah,
rather than Eastern.
Western. It's also, I think, a function of the content I do. Like if I talk about some new technology, it's global technology. So it appears on people's feeds, so they watch it, right? Also, one of the things, and this is probably interesting to state, if you look at my accent in real life, and look at my accent in my AI avatar, it's slightly different. The accent in my AI avatar is slightly anglicized, slightly more neutral to the world. And that's on purpose. Because if you go with a very Indian accent, like how I speak at home, is a very Indian accent, right? I'm a Bangalore boy. So I can't do that online because then I would lose the global audience. Even Hanuman kind, you all have heard of Hanuman kind? Yes. That's not an Indian accent. That's why it has so much global appeal. So one thing we learned, which it feels racist saying it, but it's true, is that the accent actually matters for you to have global reach. Actually, your skin color doesn't matter so much. You could be blue and you'd still get views, but the accent matters a lot for relatability. So the first thing, the good hooks, I don't think it's that hard. I think if it's interesting technology and we have an opinion on the technology, we'll say it in the first 10 seconds, right? And if you've seen my long form videos, I'll show you a long form video and you tell me if the hook is good. Okay? It's something, okay? Everyone's watching? Yes. One second. You can't see this, right? Oh, can see it here? Okay. Now this video is not about cars, but I need to use these cars to teach you a physics lesson. This car in front is doing a great service for the one behind it. This car is creating a slip. So the thing is, at least with my videos, the long form, the ones we put in effort, I don't think anyone else can create this kind of hooks. So I'm not worried about long form. Short form is more like if you have an opinion, we say it quickly. And then...
Can you please give examples for short form content as well? Because short form is taking over Instagram.
No, it depends, like what we're covering. So if OpenAI something new happened, we'll say OpenAI, this thing new happened, and here are the implications. Here's what that means for you. After a while, after a certain amount of scale, the hooks don't matter as much because your audience loves you and cares about you and they watch for the ending. And then Instagram really shares really matter. So them sharing content really matters, and people a lot, like the last video I did had like 300,000 people share it. So once that happens, you know the video is going viral. Your second question is what?
How do you monetize your audience besides the YouTube?
Yeah, so advertisers come in. So we, like I said, everyone advertises with us. Intel, Nvidia, Qualcomm. We have some of the best advertisers in the world, right? Like almost every company tech company you've heard of in India has either reached out to us or advertised with us. And I assume we're going to do more and more of that over time. See, when you get to scale, money is not a problem in anything. You're a chai wala and you have 1 million people coming to you for chai, you'll make money. You're a teacher and you have 1 million people coming to you, you'll make money. If you're a creator and you have 1 million people coming to you, you'll make money. So anything at scale makes cash. So money is not really that much of an issue now. You want my real answer on this or the diplomatic answer? I think in like a very long horizon, right? 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, whatever. I don't think we'll have jobs. Like you'll still do everything you're doing. It's like a musician, right? Like who's playing the guitar. Like why does the person, like a lot of people play guitar without needing a job. I play games on my computer without needing a job, right? I'm not paid. I pay the computer, I pay the people to have a job, right? Of playing that game for a few weeks or whatever. That's my opinion, but I'll tell you in the short term what will happen, right? 30 years is too late. Like we still need to do what we're doing till then. I'll tell you what will happen in the meantime. And I have a very interesting viewpoint on this. Many of you will disagree, but I'll tell you anyway because I do it on a living. I clickbaited Mukul as well. I was like, I have an opinion on the future of work, but I won't tell you now. I'll tell you on stage. So can I tell you? Yes, sir. It's going to sound insane. Okay? How many of you have read Hindu history / mythology? Okay, a lot of you, enough of you? Okay, cool. So what do I do on a living? Like sometimes we try to think about what I do on a living, right? For a living. AI models write my script today. It's my insights, my personality, but AI models write my script. They pretend to be me. They're creating my face. They're recreating my body. They're recreating my lips. They're recreating my voice. Okay? And there is a simple way to business way to look at it saying, okay, it reduces costs. Now I'll tell you the philosophical way of looking at it. The philosophical way is every human in history that has ever written anything or created any body of intellectual work, AI models have been trained on their data. Now they are using those ghosts, let's just call it ghosts, right, of the past. They are using my body, my face, my voice to teach you something. We call this internally, it's going to sound insane, we call this internally the avatar state. Ghosts of the past, all our ancestors, every single one of them, people who were right, people who were wrong, some people who were burnt at the stake, some people who were kings, philosophers, everyone. I'm channeling their spirit with 2 or 3 of my insights, using my skin, and they're teaching you something. Theoretically, we've always done this. You'll read something somewhere, and then you'll go tell your friend, ye seekha maine aaj. It's kind of like that. So what we believe is the future, especially when AI agents come out, it's going to be the world of avatars. You are not going to sit in that Zoom meeting. You're going to send, what's your name? Viyanshu, you're going to send a version of you. Be like, I don't want to take the meeting. My avatar will take the meeting on my behalf. So what does that leave you time to do? Leaves you time for family, leaves you time to do the things you want to do. And your avatar, there's some things your avatar can't do. Like for example, my avatar cannot go figure out what's the next business model to do, or business idea to do. Maybe in the future, it'll help me write apps, but it'll not figure out what app to build, right? Or what's the market gap or whatever. It might do some research, but ultimately I have to take that decision. So still taking decisions for your avatar. So the next few years, what you're honing is your decision-making ability. Is this the right thing to build? Is this the wrong thing to build? But in the short term, I think everyone's going to use an avatar next 5-6 years. Right? Actually, that social media version of you is not really you. It's a you with filters. It's a you. It's already a version of you. But here now, you're able to take all of history and channel it through your body. Right? So I think that's pretty cool. I think it's pretty philosophical.
Also, sir, while we were talking about Gerald Sir's book, so has anyone tried to kill your desires sometime?
I'm sure, but ultimately you can't let anybody else kill your desires. Like if you have a desire, you do it by yourself. But one thing I've become very aware of is I know my desires are not my own. Like, and I've become very aware of it this year. So has anybody who's worked a long time in an industry. Like Mukul's the same. Today Mukul, like somebody else coming and saying, some media article saying, oh, do this is a cool business. Mukul's not going to listen to it. He's going to be like, bro, I will make my own decision. So one of the things that I took a long time to learn is society actually kind of traps you. And half of success is not being trapped by society. And when we started doing the avatar thing before the tech was there, we got called stupid. We got called all sorts of names saying, how are you going to do this? You know, why will anyone watch AI generated content? Today I have, like I said, tens of millions of views every month, every week actually, with AI generated content, right? But society's job is to trap you where society currently is. Do these things, not those things. So you have to push the edge. And when you're pushing the edge, people will tell you all sorts of things. So the next 10 years of your life is going to be about you making your own system where you don't listen to other people, or you know when to listen to them. And that wisdom is very hard to gain. And it comes from experience. Like you'll build an app, you'll learn to write code, then you'll realize where to write code. Like a lot of juniors on Twitter, right? Engineers. The classic mistake is they want to write code for everything. They just learnt it. They think that's the key skill in life. So they write it everywhere, including rebuilding the same thing that thousands of people have built in the past. It's good for learning, but if you start getting into the attitude that I want to build everything from scratch, you will never actually build anything useful for end customers. Right? So all that wisdom, it comes over time, and there's no way, like even if I tell you this, you will not listen to me until you make those same mistakes yourself. So yeah, after 10 years, your desires will be your desires. But till then, you will be playing on other people's desires, and that's fine. You find a template you want to model around somebody you like. You're like, I want to be like that person. Live your life like that till you get to the point where like I'm willing to break out of that shell.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Varun, for this. I think this is one of the longest sessions I've seen here without anybody sleeping. So thanks a lot for keeping the crowd so engaged. And thanks for being so brutally honest about it. It's not an easy thing, and it takes bravery to do that. Thanks for being brutally honest with everybody, and I'm pretty sure you guys will take something out of this.
I hope this was useful.
Yeah.